today's video, I actually wanted to do my top 5 black romance books that I'm obsessed with right now. As you guys know, this past year I have gotten on this romance kick and it has not stopped anytime soon. I told you guys before, when I don't know what to read, I always go to these 3 genres. It's either African literature, urban fiction, and now it is romance. So before we get started, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All right, so I wanted to talk about my top 5 because I just got into romance. I want to say it's been continuously like this year. And because I think, did I read some romance books last year? Yeah, I think I did read some. But this year I just got heavy into it and I'm glad I did. I think for me, I read a lot of heavy things. That can just be, it can be a lot. It can be a lot on your mind. It weighs a lot on your mind. So when I want something that's kind of, I don't want to say la-di-da, but something that's a little bit more calmer, I will get a romance book. But even some romance books, they can hit you with a punch. And some of my favorite authors, they hit you with a punch where you be thinking, is this romance? So yeah, but let's just get started. So the first author of mine, I discovered her this year and already she is an automatic buy, and her name is Brittany Cherry. And this is one of my favorites. This is called The Air He Breathes. This is from the Element series. I believe I did a video, and I'll put it down below, of me reading romance books for a whole week. And this was the one that I included, and it was like my favorite one, top favorite one. She, like I said, is automatic buy. I've already bought, there is, I believe, 1, 2, 4 books from the Element series. Now, the second book, didn't like, DNF'd it. But a good thing about the Element series, they are standalones. Like, no characters are even cross-referenced in any book, so you don't have to read the series all together or whatever. I just couldn't get down with that. I think it was called like The High and Low or something like that. Yeah. So this, oh my goodness, it's about a man named Tristan Cole. Tristan Cole is just heartless. He's mean. You stay away from him. But he's like that because of a situation that happened in his life. And then you have a young lady, what was her name? Elizabeth. And she also is going through, a situation, and she moves, back to a small town, I think back to her hometown, and she has a child, and they meet, and it is not a good meet, okay? It is horrible. And you just learn about both of their paths. This was so good, you guys. If you guys saw that video of me reading books, if you guys saw that video of me reading romance books for a whole week, y'all saw how I was just gushing over this book because it is not your typical romance. Like in romance, you obviously meet the person and you start liking them. You guys go on some dates. There's some conflicts. Y'all break up and then y'all come together at the end. The structure was different, okay? But one thing I would say that I do like about romances, the person's gonna end up with the person. You know what I mean? So you already know, like, you basically get a happy ending. You gotta have conflict, obviously. You gotta have, you gotta have a climax. But at the end of the day, they go get together. So for this book, there were some hard topics because it does talk about like grief and death. But she still navigated it perfectly. Now, she just got traditionally published because she was an indie author. So some of her books you actually do have to get either on her website or you can get them on Amazon like I do. Next, this author, this is what I'm talking about when I say, is this really romance? Okay. You guys probably already know what I'm going to say. I have to include. Okay. This came out, in 2020? I just read it this year. Y'all know I like to read stuff after the fact. And I see what the hype was about before I let go. I really see what the hype was about. I really like this. I gave it a 4.5. But if I'm going to be honest, this was my favorite. I think I like this a little bit better than this. This was a 5. This was a 4.5, like a solid 4.5. The reason why I gave it a 4.5, at one point towards, the end, it was kind of like, would y'all kind of wrap it up now? You know what I mean? Like, we ain't seeing everything. We know everything. Y'all taking too long. It's just me being impatient. But I mean, this was a fantastic book. I would recommend it. I love the fact that Kennedy Ryan, the way she touched on grief and loss, also the way she touched on mental health and therapy when it comes to Black, especially a Black man. I know as a Black individual, therapy sometimes in our communities looked down upon, and the way that she expressed that and the need for therapy. And I'm so glad that a lot of Black authors, they do talk and focus on mental health, because if you need help, you need help. That's why it's there, And now I notice a lot of authors, they, like I said, they do touch on that. And I'm so happy about that, because you have a lot of people that do struggle with mental health and wanting to go to therapy, don't know if they should go to therapy and all of that. And I just love the way that she captured that in this story. This was so good. This was so good. This is a conversational piece. This would be a good book for a book club. But this was my favorite. I remember when I was reading this, and when we did get a glimpse of Soledad and her little trifling husband and her, 3 daughters, it was kind of like, it was one of the marriages where the husband don't do nothing, the wife does everything. And Soledad was such a mom, you know what I mean, to her 3 daughters. And I love this so much. Her writing, it's like a movie. When I was reading this, both of these books, but in particular with this, I felt like I was watching a movie. Literally felt like I was watching a movie. And y'all know how I feel about dialogue. That is one of my favorite things in a book. I love me some good dialogue, and this had the good dialogue. Also, I love the representation of stay-at-home moms, and the fact that that was Soledad's dream. She wanted to be a wife and a mother. She wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And this girl graduated from a top university. And her thing is, okay, yeah, but I want to be with my kids. I want to raise my kids. I want to, take them to their games. I want to pack their lunches. I want to go to all the field trips. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have some women like, oh, that's how you want to be, a housewife? First of all, that is a job. That is a lot of work. Okay. And motherhood and all of that, that's work. That is work. And I just love the way that she touched on that and just that representation. And then also autism. Love also the way that she touched on autism. Kennedy Ryan has a front seat to that because her son is autistic, and she's been dealing with it, ever since he was born. And there's different levels, different spectrums of autism. And the way that Judah just was so delicate to both of his boys. Oh, I loved it. And also the representation of Black fatherhood. In our community, we don't get a good rap, okay, unfortunately. But I love that in this book with Judah, he was so patient and kind with those boys. I just love this book so much. This is a book where I would read again. I just love this so much. You can see I'm just rambling. I cannot wait for Hendrik's book that comes out next spring. And I think that's gonna be the last book in the series, right? I think it is. So, but yeah, Kennedy Ryan, she's not your typical romance, author, because she does bring the romance, but she also brings realistic factors, you know what I mean? And I think that's another reason why I like her, because she kind of gives you not only romance, but like women's fiction and contemporary fiction. And that is one of my favorite genres. So next, this author is probably one of my favorite authors when it comes to romance. Like hands down, my favorite of all times. And it is Alexandria House. Now, Alexandria House, in order for you to read her books, you can get them from Amazon, like the physical copies, which I don't have a physical copy of Alexandria House books, which is shocking for me. But I have a good amount on Audible, because when I do read her books, I either read them, on Audible. But she's actually the first person that I started with romance, and that was like 2-3 years ago. So my favorite, I have to start with my favorite, is the Romeo University series. There's 3 books in the series. The first book is called Touch Me. The second book is called Teach Me. And the third book is called Temper Me. Now, I remember when I read these, I actually read them out of sequence, which you actually can, but I would recommend you, read them in order, because I read Tempered Me first, and I didn't realize it was a series, so that's why I did it like that. And when I saw it, I said, oh well, let me start with number 1, because that was number 3. But I still was able to navigate the story, and it was fantastic. My favorite personally is the first one, and it's about Nadia and Nathan. And one reason why I like these stories is I always like a good story storyline where black women are the center, but also too, they are intelligent, educated, and they're not struggling, okay? They are not struggling. These three characters, these three women are PhDs, okay? Like Nadia is, I don't even think she's 30 yet, and she already has a PhD. She is a professor. And with her story, she's a professor, and Nathan is in her class. Nathan, he was an ex, I believe, football player, and he didn't finish his, degree. So he's like, even though he has all this money and things like that, he's like, I want to, finish my education. And she is his professor, and he really likes her. But her thing is, you are my student. We can maybe date when you're not in my class no more, when you graduate, but I'm not messing with no student. And that's what happens. And the chemistry just off the chain. But I also like the fact that she does just like Kennedy Ryan, where, she adds the serious topics, to her books. And with this, he has two children, and one of his daughter, I believe she's deaf, and then his son, I believe is he autistic, or he has like some sensory motor skills or something like that, where I don't, is he autistic? I think he is on the spectrum. Yeah, he is on the spectrum. But he's dealing with that, and also too, he's raising his children by himself because I believe his girlfriend or wife had passed. He's dealing with single fatherhood, and then he has two children that have challenges. You got that happy ending. Roma University, I would say, out of all the books that I have read by her, that probably is my favorite series. Next, I would say is the McLean Brothers. That is my second favorite. I believe I did a review on that because I just was like over the moon. I would say my favorite is probably the most like fairy tale-ish, okay? It is Let Me Free You, and that is Neil and Sage's story. And it's like a marriage of convenience, one of those tropes where you have Sage, she is an immigrant, and she's lived in the States like basically all her life. I don't think she got her green card and stuff like that, and years later they like, girl, you about to be deported out of here. So Neil's like, well, I can help you out, and at first he's kind of like reluctant because his brothers have to kind of get him, in the mindset of trying to help her. And then he's like, I want to do this because out of the brothers, Neil, and he's a twin, Neil kind of struggled. If you do read the book, that he's dealt with some things, some substance, abuse and things like that. So he's just trying to, get it together, basically. And with Sage, she, their like love story helps, both of them navigate their situations. But this was the most fairy tale-ish because it's like, you're saving her from getting deported and you just marry her without even knowing, and you know what I mean? So it's one of those, but for some reason that is my favorite one. I just love it so much, and the dialogue's off the chain and just everything. So that probably was my favorite. The last series by her that I love is called Them Boys, and these boys went through it, okay? You got Set, you got Ja, and you got Shu. Shu was my favorite, but Shu's story in conjunction with Denver's story, it is a lot. It is a lot. These boys, the way that they grew up, oh my goodness, like abusive to the max, where they had a father that, I mean, he did off stuff where he would get those boys up at night and, make them take everything down from the cabinet, wash, dishes, and put them back up in the middle of the night knowing they got to go to school in the morning. He would, make them fight each other. He would, box with them. He would, I think one of the time they said he put a gun out on the boys or something. I mean, he was just off. He was like Joe Jackson / Ike Turner. Like, he was like combination of that. That's lethal, okay? He was like that. And because of that, those boys, all of them, they suffered with like nightmares, and just like with Shu, he worked like a dog, and meaning he couldn't sleep at night. He literally could not sleep at night. So he would work third shift, midnight shifts, and get off at 8 in the morning. And I mean, because he just needed something to occupy his time. And also one of the boys, I believe was a Ja, he was a heavy cleaner. Like when at night when he didn't know, because he couldn't sleep, you know, had those night terrors, he just cleaned up. That's just how he coped. And so you see that side of trauma. And then with Shu, the particular story that I like, Shu's story, you have a young lady named Denver. Denver is a home health aide going through it. She's young, I don't have no money, and she moved, you know, in with her cousin to just, you know, try to save up, try to get her life back together. And she meets Shu. But she has a lot of baggage. And when I say a lot of baggage, a lot of baggage, a lot of hurt, a lot of trauma. And when you find out what it is, you like, oh, poor, poor, poor baby. Girl, poor baby. And it throws a curveball. It throws a curveball. It is a good revenge story. You know how I like them revenge stories. This is probably my favorite. This is my favorite. You do have the serious bits, but also too you have the, you know, the romance bits. And again, with romance, you know, 9 times out of 10 they're gonna end up together. Sometimes I will go back and listen to Shu's story. I actually listen to all of them because it's just that good. I just really like her writing so much. But if you guys haven't read Alexandria House, and if you like are into romances or want to get into romances, I would say start with her, because I started with Alexandria House and one of my favorites. She honestly is. So yeah, guys, that is it when it comes to my top 5 romance books. I know this list is going to continue because I am still on this kick, still on this bandwagon, and I'm so glad that I did get on a romance kick, because like I told you guys before, reading so much heavy, you know, things, it can be a lot. It honestly can. So when I want to take a break and kind of cleanse my palate, I know, let me go straight to that romance, and it just gets me where I need to be, and you know, continue to enjoy those too. So yeah, guys, that's all I have for you, and I'll be back with more Black books. Bye.